All right. Hey, everyone. Coach Jeffrey here with another offering from the home office. This time, we're going to talk about 9 critical insert word here steps, keys, tips, strategies, must ask and answer questions. I'll talk about that in a second. What we're talking about here is delegation. Now, before I get into the strategies, the tips, the whatever you want to call it, the steps, the strategies, the tips, the secrets, the whatever. There's other videos on this YouTube channel. If you're watching the recording here on the YouTube channel, one was about procrastination, 5 reasons why we procrastinate and what to do about it. Now, interestingly enough, of the 5 reasons we procrastinate, 4 of them, the solution is to delegate, right? Well, it's funny to me because, well, what happens if we're procrastinating on delegating? Like, we know we need to delegate and we're procrastinating on that. It gets funny. But the other thing I want to point your attention to is somewhere on this YouTube channel, if that's where you're accessing this video, we did a video on 7 reversible questions for networking, specifically for networking, to help people optimize their networking experiences. So 7 questions that you need to be able to ask when you're networking to learn more about people, but also reversible. You better have your answers to those 7 questions. And I recommend having more than one answer to those 7 questions. So we're going to bring it all together now. We're talking about delegation today, but what happens when we're procrastinating on delegation? And isn't that funny when delegation is the answer to 4 of the 5 reasons we procrastinate that we talked about in another video? So the tips, the steps, the solutions, the strategies, the secrets, whatever your word is, it comes down to reversible questions like we talked about in a networking video. So what we're going to talk about here is how do we increase our effectiveness for delegating? And we're going to do that through 9 questions that are reversible. So what I mean by that is if you are a leader, if you have to delegate, if you need to get stuff off your plate, if you're procrastinating on things for any of the reasons that we've talked about in other videos and it's time for you to delegate, don't just delegate. Here's 9 reversible questions and I say reversible because you want to be able to answer these, or you want to be able to answer these in the minds of the person that's receiving the delegation before you delegate or in the process of delegating. In other words, from the public speaking experience that I've got, we know the strategy for public speaking is to answer all of the questions in the minds of the audience that we know are automatically going to come up. And then not to create more questions in the minds of the audience that we don't want coming up. Well, same thing when we're delegating, right? So let me go ahead and if you'll allow me here, I'm going to screen share and get into this. But the reversible part is a lot of times we're being delegated to, right? Unless we're, king of the hill, top of the mountain, sometimes we receive delegation as well. And these questions might be in our minds when we're receiving delegation, right? So wherever you're at in your career, if you're an emerging leader, if you're wherever you are on the totem pole, if you're receiving delegation, you want to seek answers to these questions. And if you're giving delegation, you want to answer these questions before the person receiving the delegation asks these questions, right? Because anything that feels pressed upon is going to press back. And sometimes it's in the form of these questions. So first of all, one of the questions that you might want to answer for the person that you're delegating to is, hey, is this an opportunity or a chore? Like, what's in it for the direct report personally, or what's in it for the team, or what's in it for the company, or ideally, what's in it for the customers and the mission of the organization, et cetera, the customer satisfaction, the engagement, et cetera. How does everybody win when the person that you're delegating to does the job that you're asking them to do? Is this an opportunity to serve, to help, to advance, to lighten the load, to make a contribution, to create an aha or a wow, or to contribute to the bottom line, or be more efficient, or install best practices? Like, or is it just like, hey, you need to do this because I can't do it, right? Number 2, why me? Right? This is a question that we should anticipate. And it's an opportunity for us in the position of delegating to let the person know exactly why, because you're the awesome person. We hired you for this. We believe in you. You've got the skills, you've got the experience, you've got the attitude, you've got the behavioral style, you've got the disposition. Moreover, this is the perfect thing for you to get experience with as you advance in your career. We've got our eye on you. We see where you're headed. There's big things in your future, and this is one of the things that you're going to want under your belt on your way up your career ladder. So do they already have? You can see some of the promptings here in my infographic. So the first question is this an opportunity or is this a chore? Second of all, why me? Why did I get this opportunity? Why not somebody else, right? This is one of the questions that we don't want anybody asking this question in their head in a defensive position, trying to figure out how to avoid, get out of, or poo-poo what's being delegated to them. We want them to know you are the perfect person for this because we believe in you because. There's nobody I'd rather do this than you because. And we have an opportunity to compliment and highlight and shine a light on their strengths, show encouragement, empowerment, all of that good stuff, right? Three, what does a great job look like, right? Are there models or templates, all right, samples of previous work, right? Don't just delegate, but can you create a job aid or a picture or a model or a diagram or like, hey, if you get here, you've gone too far, but if you get here, you're going perfectly. Is there something to guide? Because most people don't want to just do the work, but they want to do a good job. They want to be proud. They want to, and there's a little bit of uncertainty when people are delegated to because they want it to be great. They want good feedback and they don't want to make mistakes. You don't want them to make mistakes either, by the way, which is one of the reasons that you're procrastinating on delegating because we've all been there before where we've delegated to somebody and they screw it up. Well, guess who really screwed it up? We did because we didn't follow all nine or any of the nine or enough of the nine of these questions that I'm asking you to answer before you delegate to somebody or answer in the course of delegating to somebody. But are you modeling? Are you diagramming? Are you communicating? Hey, we've never done this before. There is no model. Feel free to create it however you want it to be, and then we'll assess the feedback from there. But there's no right or wrong here. Done is good, and then we'll assess from there. Or is there a model? Is there a diagram? Is there a template? Is there a precedent? And what are you doing to make sure that they can see it and march right into it with their efforts? So, first of all, is this an opportunity or a chore? Second of all, why me? Third, what does a great job look like? Fourth, am I on my own here? Does the person that you're delegating to, do they know about the availability, that of support? Is there any support? Are they on their own? Or if there's support, what's the availability of that support? How much of your time, physical, financial, or resources are available to help the direct report in completing the thing? Right. So be clear, like, hey, you're on your own on this. I'm sorry, I wish we had more resources for you. Do the best you can. We know that you're unlimited resources, so we will keep that in mind when we see the final product. But yeah, you're on your own on this. You're going to have to trust yourself. You've got enough to get this done, and we're aware of what's going on here. Or, hey, I'm available Friday from 2 to 4 p.m. if you need anything, or right, the Slack channel or the communication channel, or email me. You communicate how you prefer to be reached and if you're available and when you're available, but you've got to balance that with empowering them to be able to operate autonomously because that's why you're delegating in the first place. But sometimes they want to know if they can check in with you, if they can get a little feedback. Can I send you a screenshot of something to see if I'm on the right track? You be mindful that they want the certainty that they want to do a good job, and so we have to let them know: are they on their own, or if not, how much support, what's the availability, what are the parameters, what are the boundaries, what are the do not disturb signs, what are the green light times, etc. Next, very similar to this question right here, is this an opportunity or a chore, but slightly different. Is this an opportunity or a test, right? What's at stake? What are the consequences of doing this poorly? Am I being tested, right? Is a raise on the line or a promotion on the line, or am I being evaluated or screened? Is it just getting it done, or is it done in a certain way? Is the focus of this delegation that the thing is done, or is the focus of this delegation how I do it, how well I do it, how quickly I do it, how autonomously I do it? Am I being tested? Is this an opportunity for me to demonstrate my competence? Is this part of my succession plan? Am I going to be is this chore going to factor into my performance review at the end of the year, right? Am I being tested, or tested not just for competence, but hey, what are the challenges that I'm going to experience in the course of doing this thing? Is it just the amount of time it'll take, or am I going to experience politics or pushback or lack of buy-in? Am I going to need to boundary span and talk to people in other departments? Am I going to need to how will I be tested in the course of doing this? Is this a test? Help me understand that. What's at stake? What are the consequences, etc. Next, am I absolutely clear, right, in what you're really asking of me? So, I mean, I don't even have to like elaborate on this too much, but I hope we all remember the game or the exercise in elementary school when all the class, 20, 30 people would sit in the semicircle and the teacher would whisper something, rubber baby buggy bumpers, into somebody's ear, and then they have to tell it to the next person, the next person, the next person. By the time it comes all the way out the other end, it's like, what? How did that come out of all this? And it's just amazing, the filtering mechanism. So that's an easy way to point your attention to the fact that sometimes we think we have been thorough about what we've delegated, and we haven't, right? And so the very best way to secure shared meaning on the delegated task is, hey, repeat back to me. Let me hear you say it in your words. Tell me if you had to go home and tell your spouse, or if you had to tell your best friend, or if you had to tell a coworker what's been delegated to you, let me hear you explain that to them so I can listen to the way you're describing the task and I can listen for any gaps in our understanding, any gaps in your understanding, and quality control for certainty as best we can as to your understanding as to what's really being expected of you, right? So can they repeat back to you what you're delegating in a way that gives you that confidence? Okay. The next question that we want to be able to answer in the minds is, this isn't going to surprise you, right? Where does this rank in importance among my priorities? But it's careful how you ask this. You don't want to be like, well, where am I going to fit this in? Or when do you expect me to get to this? If you're being delegated to. Moreover, you have to understand a lot of people already feel overwhelmed. They feel that most people in organizations feel that there's not enough time in the day to do the things that are already expected of them. So when new and more and additional things get put in, the defense mechanisms come up. Well, where does this rank? Because I've been asked to do this, and now you're asking me to do this, right? So you want to be careful about how you're offering this and let the person know, hey, can we sit down and take a look at your priorities for the day, priorities for the week, your priorities over the next 2 weeks, and can we partner on you making time for this thing that I need to delegate to you because you're the best person on the team to do it, because it's an opportunity for you to grow in a certain way, and because we can show you exactly what it looks like and when we're available to help you out. But what we need to do is sit down together and partner and look at all of your priorities and anticipate an amount of time this may take and where you can feel comfortable fitting this in the mix of all of the other things that are expected of you. Can we sit down and take a look at that and agree on an amount of time that you'll budget to fit this in? The other way around, if you're receiving the delegation, of course, you want to ask for that partnering. Hey, do you have a minute or two to partner with me on a short list? Just a short list of things that I thought were priorities for me before this came about, and I want to know where this fits in. Can you partner with me on helping me make those decisions? Is there any availability that you have to help me, or am I left to my own to figure out how to prioritize this, etc., right? So anytime you ask for partnership, rather than like an invitation to work side by side with whoever's delegating or whoever's receiving the delegation, to make sure there's agreement now on not that the delegated task isn't looked at in and of itself where it has 100% priority because that's the only thing that's being looked at. It needs to be seen in the context of everything else on the person's plate, and there needs to be buy-in, partnership, and like permission and empowerment around making room for this new thing in the context of everything else that's expected of a person. All right, next. By when do I need it done? Very related to what are the priorities, right? So shifting due dates. Like, oh, this priority, I'm glad that you were prioritizing that this week. The truth is, you actually have another 7 days or so runway on that. So whereas I'm glad that you were trying to get that done by Friday, but the truth is you could probably push that at another 5 business days. So that creates an opportunity for this new thing, right? So awareness of by when dates, awareness of by when do I need to do it? Understanding the flexibility, really taking a deep breath and saying, hey, what's the difference between a deadline where there's no more wiggle room like in a due date, other than the vibration of the words. I love due date instead of deadline, but by when, right, is a question and it invites that answer. By when do I need it done? By when do you need it done? By when must it be done? Is there a time by which we could get a draft and get feedback on a draft that creates room for Murphy if Murphy's law shows up and anything that can go wrong will go wrong? So is there maybe a pre-due date or an initial due date for a draft followed by a more or harder due date that we might want to call deadline for an absolute final product no matter what, right? Let the marketplace decide, or be ready for the tougher feedback when it leaves our department or our project management team or our high performance team or whatever the task is, right? So finally, right, this is very related to this one right here, am I on my own? But it's going a step further and really holding the person that's delegating accountable. And then you hold yourself accountable to making sure the thing gets done well. Because let's face it, one of the things that keeps everybody from delegating is we're not confident that it'll be done right, that it'll be done well, that it'll be done on time. Moreover, we're afraid that so much mistake will be made that now it's going to cost us 2 or 3 times more time than it would have taken if we had just done it ourselves. But we know that that's not sustainable. We can't just keep doing it ourselves and avoid delegation, because then we'll never scale and grow. right? Take it from me. I'm still very solopreneurial and I have all of these struggles with delegating and I've had all of these traumas by delegating and seeing it screwed up and having to take 2 or 3 more time, the amount of time on the project than if I would have just done it myself. But here I am in this space, still solopreneuring my boulder up the hill, and I'm a lot better off than I used to be. I've got teams and contractors and people that I can lean on, but I've struggled with all of these things. And so to wrap up this last question here is how often can we check in to make sure we're on the right track? Or what milestones would you like me to have reported to you along the way? What does progress look like? Are there check-ins? Are there reviews? Or is it just do this and I don't talk to you again until it's done? Or hey, can we partner on the quality control on the can we phase this thing out? Or is this just like a 5-minute task that you need me to do? Or is right depending obviously not all of these questions are going to apply to micro tasks, but project-based tasks that have some depth that are going to require more than an hour or two, that have a deliverable that right. This is what we're talking about. So when we phase back out, and by the way, here's all my contact information if you want to get a hold of me, if you want to have a conversation about me doing a lunch and learn or coming into your organization, or if you want me to do some complimentary coaching with anybody on your team, if you're looking for emerging leaders to get more soft skills and to get more stuff off their plate and to make room for the new responsibilities and to get help from a mindset perspective, but also a strategic perspective on how to get out of individual contributor into the land of having direct reports and being able to delegate so they can embrace these new levels of responsibility that are being delegated to them. I'm just making up a couple of scenarios where this information might be helpful for you. This all works in the entrepreneurial world, in the solopreneurial world, in the micro business world as well. But are we effective when we're delegating? Are we just looking over our shoulder and saying, hey, I need you to do that thing, and then getting back to our work? And we just yelled over our shoulder to somebody that was concentrating on something else. And so never mind that we didn't even say it well. They only heard half of what we said, and they're concentrating on something else when we said it. Nobody wrote it down and nobody documented, and we didn't take any time to answer any of these questions. So over the shoulder, in the moment delegation is never going to be as effective as taking the time to make sure that when you're delegating to somebody, you are answering these questions for them before they come up in their own mind. And then moreover, when you're receiving delegation, you want to find the most professional, you can be vulnerable, but you can be professional, most professional ways to ask these questions or get these questions answered so that you've got supreme confidence moving forward in whatever has been delegated to you. So there you have it. Wrapping it all up, we have some video on our YouTube channel about the 5 reasons why we procrastinate. The solution to 4 of them is to delegate. But what if we're procrastinating on delegation? It's because we're afraid of the mistakes that'll be made, and it's never the person's fault that we're delegating to. It's always the leader's fault. So hopefully these reversible questions where we want to be able to answer them if we're delegating, we want to be able to ask them if we're being delegated to. These reversible questions are really the strategy, the tip, the step, the secret, the magic, the must-have, the must-do, the whatever the word is that gets you to click on the video and follow us further into the integrity game. It's been fun to cut this video for you. I hope you found it productive and successful, and find your way through the links below to 2 complimentary sessions with an integrity game certified coach, or get to theintegritygame.com where you'll find the arena. That's where the integrity game is played, and there's a bunch of freebies and it's free to join, and you get exposure to all of our online courses and all of the stuff that we've got. But hopefully you've gotten a lot of video out of this value out of this video right here. And this is Coach Jeffrey reminding you that nothing is insurmountable when I'm holding you accountable. All right, soft skills for strong leaders. Go have a great day. All right.